Sahih Bukhari, Volume 1, The Book of Ghusl, Hadees number 248. Narrated Aisha. Whenever the Prophet peace be upon him took a bath after Janaba, he started by washing his hands and then performed ablution, like that for the prayer. After that he would put his fingers in water and move the roots of his hair with them, and then pour 3 handsful of water over his head, and then pour water all over his body. Narrated Maimuna, the wife of the Prophet peace be upon him. Allah's apostle performed ablution like that for the prayer, but did not wash his feet. He washed off the discharge from his private parts and then poured water over his body. He withdrew his feet from that place, the place where he took the bath, and then washed them. And that was his way of taking the bath of Janaba. Hadith number 250, narrated Aisha. The Prophet peace be upon him and I used to take a bath from a single pot called farak. Hadith number 251, narrated Abu Salama. Aisha's brother and I went to Aisha and he asked her about the bath of the Prophet, peace be upon him. She brought a pot containing about a saw of water and took a bath and poured it over her head, and at what time there was a screen between her and us. Hadith number 252, narrated Abu Ja'far. While I and my father were with Jabir bin Abdullah, some people asked him about taking a bath. He replied, "A saw of water is sufficient for you." A man said, "A saw is not sufficient for me." Jabir said, "A saw was sufficient for one who had more hair than you and was better than you, that is, the Prophet peace be upon him." And then Jabir put on his garment and led the prayer. Hadith number 253, narrated Ibn Abbas. The Prophet peace be upon him and Maimuna used to take a bath from a single pot. Hadith number 254, narrated Jubair bin Mut'im. Allah's Apostle said, "As for me, I pour water 3 times on my head," and he pointed with both his hands. Hadith number 255, narrated Jabir bin Abdullah. The Prophet peace be upon him used to pour water 3 times on his head. Hadith number 256, narrated Abu Ja'far. Jabir bin Abdullah said to me, "Your cousin, that is Hassan bin Muhammad bin al-Hanfiya, came to me and asked about the bath of Janaba." I replied, "The Prophet peace be upon him used to take 3 handfuls of water, pour them on his head, and then pour more water over his body." Al-Hassan said to me, "I am a hairy man." I replied, "The Prophet peace be upon him had more hair than you." Hadith number 257, narrated Maimuna. I placed water for the bath of the Prophet peace be upon him. He washed his hands twice or thrice, and then poured water on his left hand and washed his private parts. He rubbed his hands over the earth and cleaned them, rinsed his mouth, washed his nose by putting water in it and blowing it out, washed his face and both forearms, and then poured water over his body. Then he withdrew from that place and washed his feet. Hadith number 258, narrated Aisha. Whenever the Prophet peace be upon him took the bath of Janaba, that is sexual relation or wet dream, he asked for the hilab or some other scent. He used to take it in his hand, rub it first over the right side of his head and then over the left, and then rub the middle of his head with both hands. Hadith number 259, narrated Maimuna. I placed water for the bath of the Prophet and he poured water with his right hand on his left and washed them. Then he washed his private parts and rubbed his hands on the ground, washed them with water, rinsed his mouth and washed his nose by putting water in it and blowing it out, washed his face and poured water on his head. He withdrew from that place and washed his feet. A piece of cloth, that is towel, was given to him, but he did not use it. Hadith number 260, narrated Maimuna. The Prophet took the bath of Janaba, that is sexual relation or wet dream. He first cleaned his private parts with his hand, and then rubbed it, that is that hand, on the wall, that is earth, and washed it. Then he performed ablution like that for the prayer, and after the bath he washed his feet. Hadith number 261, narrated Aisha. The Prophet, peace be upon him, and I used to take a bath from a single pot of water, and our hands used to go in the pot after each other in turn. Hadith number 262, narrated Aisha. Whenever Allah's Apostle took a bath of Janaba, he washed his hands first. Hadith number 263, narrated Aisha. The Prophet, peace be upon him, and I used to take a bath from a single pot of water after Janaba. Hadith number 264, narrated Anas bin Malik. The Prophet, peace be upon him, and one of his wives used to take a bath from a single pot of water. Shoba added to Anas' statement after the Janaba. Hadith number 265, narrated Maimuna. I placed water for the bath of Allah's Apostle, and he poured water over his hands and washed them twice or thrice. Then he poured water with his right hand over his left and washed his private parts, that is, with his left hand. He rubbed his hand over the earth and rinsed his mouth and washed his nose by putting water in it and blowing it out. After that he washed his face, both forearms and head, thrice, and then poured water over his body. He withdrew from that place and washed his feet. Hadith number 266, narrated Maimuna bint al-Haris. I placed water for the bath of Allah's Apostle and put a screen. He poured water over his hands and washed them once or twice. The sub-narrated added that he did not remember if she had said thrice or not. Then he poured water with his right hand over his left one and washed his private parts. He rubbed his hand over the earth or the wall and washed it. He rinsed his mouth and washed his nose by putting water in it and blowing it out. He washed his face, forearms, and head. He poured water over his body and then withdrew from that place and washed his feet. I presented him a piece of cloth that is tall, and he pointed with his hand that he does not want it and did not take it.